This week in disc golf saw Gannon sweep Oregon, Holland breaks through for her first DGPT victory, further calls from pros on the DGPT need for standardization, and so much more. What's going on, all you disgenerates at Swiss Cheese with the disc golf world? You guys know by now I'm the one with all the holes in his game. The minivan might be packed and ready for Minneapolis, but still tossed in plastic here at home. You're watching This Week in Disc Golf, where I cover all things disc golf from the past week. Thank you for taking the time to watch, everyone who has subscribed and every member who contributes over to the Patreon. Was able to step away from the script and spit with the fellas over at the Courtesy Violation podcast. Had a blast hitting on a ton of topics, including tour stories from Disc Golf World Travels, Tennessee disc golf, and the state of the game. Make sure to get over there and give it a listen or watch. There was so much disc golf this weekend that needs to be covered, so let's get into all the action from the week. Drew Gibson came out of the weekend releasing another video discussing the further standardizing of the sport, something that is rarely seen in the game from other athletes. Drew has made some large strides with fans with his social media presence as of late. Those opinions still may not be favored by many fans and even some pros. Shoot, even Brody recently went as far to say Drew says as much stupid stuff as he does on the last tour life. A statement even Yuli couldn't help but laugh at and agree on. Yuli and Brody might just be the best in the game discussing course or hole layouts that can make the sport better, yet often fall short on being overtly critical of the DGPT at points. Something Drew seems to have little concern with, which in all honesty is pretty impressive. Drew made some very intriguing points while also showcasing some of the absurdity that can be found at elite events, shocking many who often believe our sport is larger and more established than it truly is. He went into multiple topics, including course layout, parking, and infrastructure, just to name a few, being critical of the walk times between the practice area to the tee and parking lots provided for the pros. What he did not cover is those walks are often through spectator areas also, let alone the safety concerns that presents, but also making it that much more difficult to get to the tee. And with the crackdown on the start times and penalties being enforced, will continue to be a growing issue moving forward. Even more shocking just might be the basics and lack of quality standards from stop to stop. Drew also went on to hit baskets not being level or worse than being installed incorrectly, and some stops even playing with damaged baskets for a professional event. A true embarrassment for many fans to hear, even the ones that want to believe Drew is simply complaining. But Drew didn't stop there, completely blowing up the Latitude baskets as if it was a general commercial, and now in part due to Drew, has become the poster child for the tour needing to eliminate bad baskets completely. And if you're looking to discredit Drew, it might hurt for you to hear this. He's right. And I've seen similar examples myself throughout multiple stops. Now, I do have a couple of disagreements. First, Drew said a number of times he feels these won't be issues in the next 10 years, but he's far more optimistic than I. The sport's participation, consumption, and sales are all down this year, as any thoughts of us maintaining that COVID boom becomes more unrealistic. The sport is in a dangerous spot of having our 15 minutes of fame already pass us by. As money gets tighter, these issues will become larger and more pros become that much more vocal. We are already a sport dependent on volunteers at our sport's pinnacle, mind you. And what changes could we possibly see in the sport in 10 years without large increases in funding that at this point are nowhere near in sight? And listen, we need to be honest with ourselves here. What exactly have we seen in the last 5 years from the DGPT to believe these issues will improve in the next 10 years? Don't get me wrong, DGPT has done a stellar job on the business side of the game, putting themselves in the right position for the future here and overseas. And you can't dispute that. But if player issues as basic as these still exist now, just how much improvements have there been? Yes, the live coverage and quality has improved, yet being behind a paywall helps them and the subscribers more than the sport or the pros. And some would highlight the tournament payouts being a vast improvement from the past, a pillar the tour and fans stand on, but also not the flex it once was. After Portland Open, a DGPT-owned event, mind you's prize pool payout was down 5% this year. Drew also discussed the standardized tee pads, the largest step in the right direction the DGPT has done towards standardization. Yet is something that just occurred only this year, after time spent on testing and getting pros' opinions. What the DGPT can't do is take credit for most of the course's improvements we have seen over the last 5 years. Those were the results of volunteers wanting their courses showcased on the Pro Tour, which takes large coordinated efforts from members of the community. Which leads me to my other criticism, being Drew might have exaggerated slightly on the work done to the lead up of an event. I can't speak on any of the events on the West Coast Swing as I didn't attend. But at every stop I've been in person, the TD and volunteers put in countless hours of work well in advance of the week up to the event like Drew portrays. Don't get me wrong, it's always a scramble the few days leading up to the event, and yes, that's at every location. Yet the largest projects often have been completed before the pros even hit their practice rounds. However, progress is measured in the details, which often are the last to be addressed. And to be brutal, where the DGPT should do a better job in assisting the volunteers. But let's get into all the action on the course.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
The Beaver State Fling showcased one of the tightest battles on the season. Heading into the final day, you had the top 10 within 3 strokes of the leaders. That final day was a smorgasbord of rooting options, each with their own storylines. It showcased superstars, established elite pros, fan favorites, the sports up-and-comers knocking on that elite status door, and even underdogs. Ricky on chase card came out with the strongest front 9 and took an early lead. Yet Gannon Burr and Luke Humphreys' back half jumped them back into the action with even more holes to play. Both went 4 down through the first 5 holes on the back half, heading to 15, that had the lowest birdie rate on the course. What does Gannon do but bury a 59-foot birdie putt to tie Luke for the lead? But still had Ricky a stroke off with both Ezra Robinson and Gavin Rathbun still in the mix also. Then 17 happened, where Ricky, Gavin, and Luke would find OB, erasing the chance for each of them to win. Ricky was able to hold on to a share of second, Luke having to throw first after his drive, saw his attempt clip a tree branch that dropped his disc straight down like that backflipping Reds fan. It got worse from there, as Luke would go out on his shield, finding OB 2 more times for a quadruple bogey. Tough to watch, especially as Luke had to have been the rooting interest for the majority in attendance and those watching at home, and his second opportunity this year to get his first Elite Series win. From there, Gannon only needed to match Ezra Robinson on the final hole, who did have his best Elite Series finish of his career, tying for second. Gannon did make it interesting having to get creative to save that par and the win. The win was his second in a row and third on the season, matching AB's total at the halfway point of the year, as the 19-year-old continues to stack his resume, which for whatever reason doesn't seem to be garnering traction among fans, who are hell-bent on holding on to clock violations, pouty play, that contract dispute, and my new favorite, the need to tell one of the best putters in the game he needs more touch. Please tell me, who at this point would you have more confidence in hitting a pressure putt, no matter the distance, than Gannon? And whomever you're saying or thinking, you're wrong. Gannon plays like shoe strict with the work ethic and mentality of Macbeth, and yet not raised or celebrated by the community as those two greats were, or many of the young talents to come through the game like Ricky or even the Crush Boys, just to name a few. And he wins, in the era touted as the most competitive the sport has ever seen, is already 11th on the all-time Elite Series win list in only 60 events. Nate says it best, there's never been a player that good that young. Look, Gannon's not only a clear favorite for Player of the Year at this point, but is on pace to break the highest prize pool winnings in a season, something that I believe he will achieve. You guys want to wait to buy in and ignore the historic start and possibly a player to usher this sport into yet another era? So be it. Not me. Not to be outdone, the FPO had a tight battle with plenty of drama late, and what just might have been one of the most electric moments from either division on the season at the halfway point. Yet, many would rather spend more time discussing the comment section being turned off on Joe Mez coverage than the action on the course, or Holland Hanley finally exercising the demons that have seemed to haunt her during the championship round of tournaments. Though the tournament seemed to be all own Scoggins early with Holland and Natalie Ryan's struggles, Ryan was out of the contention talk before the back half even started, as she shifted to holding off Missy for her first podium of the season, which still needed a Missy C1 miss on 18 to get, however. Holland looked to take advantage late, targeting specific holes where her style and distance off the tee helped close a 3-stroke gap by birdieing the final 4 holes. Holland's nerves did not show, hitting big putt hole after hole, while Owen had her own troubles on 17. The biggest putt being the 45 birdie putt Holland needed on 18 to push a playoff. A moment that got me as excited as that Antela win at Austin, with just as much primal celebration. After that putt, there was no way Holland wasn't going to go on to win, which was her first Elite Series victory of her career. Holland has had a fantastic season, adding a win to her already 6 podiums. Takes the points lead as Evelina is enjoying an extended Euro stay, and Kristen Tatar recovering from injury, evidently building a brand now, promoting business adventures while also planning a wedding, giving many the narrative that the FPO Player of the Year race is still very much open. Tatar and Evelina each have 3 victories, with Missy being the only other player with more than 1 win on the season. one of those being a major also, like Evelina. Tatar's return and expected dominance is right around the corner. That and Evelina is currently on lead card, 4 strokes off the lead for another DGPT win or podium this week at the Turku Open. Add the fact that Holland's not going on a Euro run this year, which takes her out of the running for 4 events, including a major. It's difficult not to expect Tatar and Evelina's lead to grow even larger in that span. Still looks as though the Europeans will come out on top after the European swing. There's a ton of disc golf outside the DGPT Tour, so let's quickly cover some of those additional events. Kale Levisko warmed up for his Masters World Championship run by winning the Kansas City Flying Disc Challenge by 5 strokes. This is Kale's 19th consecutive year with an A-tier win, a stat up there with none other than Ken Climo, as the two are tied with the most. Chrissy Fontaine led wire to wire and took down the FPO by 10 strokes. There was also a DGPT Euro Silver event in the Heinola Open that had some great action and a bizarre finish also. Silva Saarinen shot a hot round of the tournament, a 7-under with 9 birdies on day 2. Followed that with the best round of the final day as she cruised to an easy 6-stroke victory. In the MPO, you had a final day charge from chase card in both Lari Leitinen and Mika Ame. Mika tied the course record on the final day with a 9-under and pushed tournament leader Jakub Semerad. Semerad led the way for the entire tournament, but his slow back half on championship day and him missing the victory-sealing C1 birdie putt on 18 instead pushed the event to a playoff. The single-hole playoff would be as difficult for me to process as what the Finns call baseball. Started off with a Mika OB drive that only needed Jakub to remain clean on the 8th most difficult hole on the course. After Semerad's drive, had most fans in attendance looking for exits. And I don't know, maybe a sauna or some good in plenties. At least that's what my boy Tomas tells me. Only to see Jakub throw OB on his approach, needing to hit a pressure putt again, this time to push an additional hole playoff as Mika's disc was near the bullseye. Semerad hits and Mika doesn't, in an absolute peculiar finish with a final 13-foot airball miss. While talking about some bizarre finishes, Ryan Mon came back from a 3-stroke deficit on the last 2 remaining holes of the tournament to take down the United States Amateur Disc Golf Championship held over at Toboggan. The bogey-free 6-under round would be enough to take down the championship. And yes, he's Jake's brother and not the only Mon to compete over the weekend. The podium was rounded out by Lucas Carmichael, who would love to have those final 2 holes back, but had an otherwise strong performances that turned some heads. He absolutely bombs off the tee, scored 2 of the 6 eagles on the entire weekend. Ross Kimbrell, who not only had the highlight ace on hole 11 on lead card of the final day, but also finished with the share of 3rd. Ross, if you're listening, that flip-up drive was just filthy. And Gavin Cunningham saved his best round for the final day, shooting the hot round of the weekend with a 9-under day that showcased a 9-straight birdie run at one point and moved him 16 spots for his share of 3rd. There was also an NADGT Minnesota premiere that had Tyler Friedlund shoot the 2 best scores on the more difficult Airborne Timberwolf course. The effort resulted in a 6-stroke victory for Tyler. That and the Professional Masters World Championship is currently underway in Emporia. Plenty of familiar names in the lead with just 3 more days to play. Joe Revere, Owen, and Juliana Korver have commanding leads with 9 and 10-stroke leads. Brian Schreberger is trying his best to hold off Johnny McRae for another victory, while Elaine King is holding on to a slim lead of her own. Now, let's get to some quick hitters. Macy Veladiaz and her husband Jamie welcomed Layla Marie Veladiaz to the disc golf community. Congratulations goes out to them. Pros are not holding back on the hole design for hole 3 at Turku Open. Proctor having to go with a young like a prayer Madonna on his knees. Owen got so much confidence, she's out there looking like she's about to yell fuck the free world during her Masters interview. Adam Hammis got some bow practice in, out there looking like a Midwestern Hawkeye, don't you know? Those gloves and outfit makes him look like he overused his fib. The dude's also got the disc golf card market on lock, shipping out even more to be graded. And what might be a sadder retirement plan than crypto? Ricky took the off week to enter into a World Series of Poker tournament. Disc golf fans, don't worry. Looks like he's not quitting his day job anytime soon. That's because he finished in 629th place and outlasted only 13 total people. A disc golf legend no one has heard of in Andreas Carlsen, who in 5 days while in Estonia somehow played 73 unique courses. Get this, plays 12 to 14 hours a day, driven over 200 miles, and walked about as far as each of the Proclaimers combined. Stacy and Kevin Kiefer hit up Yellowstone, doing it right, complete with the tourist cringe outfits. They were still smart enough to not try to pet a buffalo, however. Chandler Fry not only had a great showing at Beaver State Fling, but also crushing it like a high schooler on a date with some mini golf. The Linz twin, Morgan and Jordan, pick up a doubles pickleball win. I got nothing nice to say about pickleball, so I won't say anything at all. The boys are trying to lock in some interviews, so make sure to comment what pros you want us to land and questions you may want to hear. And guys, that wraps up this week in disc golf. If you've enjoyed and not subscribed, make sure to do so, as it helps fund another tour leg in this channel. Make sure to like, comment, and share. And if you want more, make sure to check out previous episodes.